Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy. Today we're going to read Guy de Maupassant's An Old Man, a classic short story. This was translated by our favorite translator of Maupassant, Roger Colette, and we hope you enjoy it. Let's go, and there'll be analysis following in a separate recording. An Old Man. All the newspapers had carried this advertisement. The new spa at Rondelis offers all the advantages desirable for a lengthy stay or even permanent residence. Its ferruginous waters, recognized as the best in the world for countering all the impurities of the blood, also seem to possess special qualities calculated to prolong human life. This remarkable circumstances may be due in part to the exceptional situation of the little town, which lies in the mountainous regions in the middle of a forest of firs. The fact remains that for several centuries it has been noted for cases of extraordinary longevity. And the public came along in droves. One morning, the doctor in charge of the springs was asked to call on a newcomer, Monsieur Deron, who had arrived a few days before and had rented a charming villa at the edge of the forest. He was a little low man of 86, still quite sprightly, wiry, healthy, and active, who went to infinite pains to conceal his age. He offered the doctor a seat and started questioning him straight away. "Doctor," he said, if I am in good health, it is thanks to careful living. Though not very old, I've already attained a respectable age, and yet I keep free of all illnesses and indispositions, even the slightest malaise, by means of careful living. And it is said that the climate here is very good for health. I am perfectly prepared to believe it. But before settling down here, I want proof. I'm therefore going to ask you to come and see me once a week and give me the following information in detail. First of all, I wish to have a complete, absolutely complete list of all the inhabitants of the town and the surrounding area who are over 80 years old. I also need a few physical and physiological details regarding each of them. I wish to know their professions, their way of life, their habits. Every time one of those people dies, you will be good enough to inform me, giving me the precise cause of death and describing the circumstances. Then he added graciously, "I hope, doctor, that you and we will become good friends." And he held out his wrinkled little hand, and the doctor shook it, promising him his devoted cooperation. There's a little space here. Monsieur Deron had always had an obsessive fear of death. He had deprived himself of nearly all the pleasures of this world because they were dangerous. And whenever anyone expressed surprise that he should not drink wine, that purveyor of dreams and gaiety, he would reply in a voice which a note of fear could be detected, "I value my life." And he stressed the word "my" as if that it was my life, his life, possessed some special distinction. He put into that "my" such a difference between his life and other people's lives that any rejoinder was out of the question. And for that matter, he had a very special way of stressing the possessive pronouns, designating parts of his person and even things which belonged to him. For example, when he said, "my eyes, my legs, my arms, it was quite obvious that there must be no mistake about this. Those organs were not like other people's. But where this distinction was particularly noticeable was in his references to his doctor. When he said, "my doctor," one would have thought that the doctor belonged to him and nobody else. destined for him alone, to attend to his illnesses and nothing else, and that he was superior to all the doctors, the other doctors in the world, without exception. Daron had never regarded other men as anything but puppets of a sort, created to fill up empty world. He divided them into two classes, those he greeted, because some chance had put them in contact with them, and those he did not greet. But both categories of individuals were equally insignificant in his eyes. And there's a little space. However, beginning with the day when the rondellist doctor brought him the list of 17 inhabitants of the town who were over 80, Daron felt a new interest awaken in his heart, an unfamiliar solicitude for these old people with whom he was going to see fall by the wayside, one by one. He had no desire to make their acquaintance, but he formed a very clear idea of their persons, and when the doctor dined with him every Thursday, he spoke only of those people, them. "Well, doctor," he would say, and how is Joseph Pinquot today? "We left him feeling a little ill last week," and when the doctor had given him the patient's bill of health, Monsieur Daron would suggest changes in his diet, experiments, methods of treatment, which he would later apply to himself if they had succeeded with the others. Those 17 old people provided Daron with an experimental field from which he learned many a lesson. One evening, the doctor announced as he came in, "Rosalie Tournelle has died." Monsieur Daron gave a start and immediately asked, "What of?" "Of a chill," said the doctor. The little old man gave a sigh of relief. Then he said, "She was too fat, too heavy. She must have eaten too much. When I get to be her age, I'll be more careful about my weight." Parentheses. He was 2 years older than Rosalie Tournelle, but he claimed to be only 70. Close parentheses. A few months later, it was the turn of Henri Bergson. Monsieur Daron was very upset. This time, this was a man, a thin man at that, within 3 months of his own age, and very careful about his health. He did not dare to ask any questions, but he waited anxiously for the doctor to give him some details. "Oh, so he died just like that all of a sudden," he said, but he was perfectly all right last week. He must have done something silly, I suppose, doctor?" The doctor, who was enjoying himself, replied, I don't think so. His children told me that he had been very careful." And then, unable to contain himself any longer and filled with fear, Monsieur Daron asked, But what did he die of then?" "Of pleurisy." And the little old man clapped his dry hands in sheer joy. "I told you so. I told you he'd done something silly. You don't get pleurisy for nothing. He must have gone out for a breath of air after dinner, and the cold must have gone to his chest. Pleurisy. Why, that's an accident, not an illness. Only fools die of pleurisy." And he ate his dinner in high spirits, talking about those who were left. "There are only 15 of them now, but they are all hale and hearty, aren't they? The whole of life is like that. The weakest go first. People who live beyond 30 have a good chance of reaching 60, said Daron. Those who pass 60 often get to be 80, and those who pass 80 nearly always live to be 100, because they are the fittest, the toughest, and the most sensible. Another 2 disappeared during the year, one of dysentery and another of a choking fit, and Monsieur Daron was highly amused by the death of the former, and he concluded that he must have eaten something stimulating the day before. Dysentery is the disease of careless people. Damn it all, doctor, you ought to have watched over his diet. As for the man who had died carried off by a choking fit, his death could only be due to a heart condition which had hitherto gone unnoticed. But one evening, the doctor announced the decease of Paul Timonet, a sort of mummy to whom it had been hoped that he would make centurion and an advertisement for the spa. They were going to use him as an ad for the spa. When Monsieur Durand asked, as usual, well, what did he die of, doctor? The doctor replied, bless me, I really don't know. What do you mean you don't know? The doctor always knows. Hadn't he some organic lesion? The doctor shook his head. No, none. Well, possibly some infection of the liver or the kidneys. No, they were quite sound. Did you check whether the stomach was functioning properly? You know, a stroke is often caused by poor digestion. There was no stroke. Monsieur Durand, very perplexed, said excitedly, look, he must have died of something. What do you think it was? The doctor threw up his hand. I have no idea. I have no idea at all. He died because he died. That's all. And then, Monsieur Durand, in a voice full of emotion, he asked, exactly how old was that one? I can't remember. 89, said the doctor. And the little old man, at once incredulous and reassured, exclaimed, 89? So whatever it wasn't old age. Sorry. Excuse me. You've been reading with Jimmy. Learn more about Guy de Maupassant by watching our ongoing videos of Maupassant. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. I know. Pull yourself together, Jimmy. Okay. Be sure to visit and read other classics on my website. And if you have a question, email me, readingwithjimmy.com, jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Thank you very much for reading An Old Man. You saw some notes about this throughout there. You can go back and reread it, pause it, and enjoy it. And we're going to analyze this because this is a very good story. Even though it's a very short story, it's a very good story because, as you see in my little illustration here, it's really about this guy here, this guy right here that I'm circling. Have a great day. Thanks for coming.